This is the Tesoro AI podcast with Darius Gant. AI is changing the world and fast. This episode is coming to you courtesy of Tesoro AI, the #1 recruiting service for software development and AI talent.
All right, Dima, welcome to the show, or I should say, Dmitry, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking some time out to join us.
Hey, Darius. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. So, wanted to kick things off talking more about your background. Unlike most folks who are hopping into this world of AI, you've been in it for a while now, and would love to kind of hear your story as it relates to AI since you decided to dive into the deep end.
Absolutely happy to tell you more about it. So first of all, I'm co-founder of Stratyfy, and my background is in physics, so this is where I should start the story about myself. I was always fascinated about physics since young ages, and what I like about it is that this magic that our world seems to be much more predictable than it seems, and where you see chaos, there might be, in fact, a lot of structure underneath, so you just need to be able to see it. Yeah, so I dedicated a lot of time in my life to studying physics, and also one of the things which I really spent a lot of time thinking about it is the artificial intelligence. And you're right. So I started working on those algorithms very long time ago, back to my PhD times when I was studying theoretical physics in Germany. And this was the beginning of a very long journey. So I managed to develop a lot of very interesting and powerful algorithms, which later found their way into the engine of our product, which we have as offering at Stratyfy.
Awesome. Thinking about Stratyfy, what was the pain point that you recognized in the market where you said, you know what, we're going to launch Stratyfy. It makes sense for AI to tackle this problem.
Right. And I would say the timing was perfect for this technology to rise. I'll tell you a few more words about what is the technology I'm talking about, and then it will become clear why. The thing I started working on long time ago was mathematical logic. Listeners may know this more as expert systems. And mathematical logic was one of the first attempts of actually working on AI. It goes back to mid 20th century, but later was overshadowed by success of machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, etc. Still, the based and logic-based decisioning algorithms, they're still there. They have their niche and they have their applications. And with the time, we realized there is more and more place in industry for that sort of algorithms. And I'll tell you more about it, but if in a nutshell, logic-based decisioning systems, they belong to so-called interpretable algorithms. And interpretability of AI is one of the crucial points which people, not all, but many people already realized, and with the time they will be more and more realizing how important it is in all the technologies. Yeah, so the algorithms I developed, they are about rules-based decisioning system. And in particular, just to coin this word, it's a probabilistic logic, which brings the olden days mathematical logic in a new world of machine learning. They become much more powerful, but still interpretable. And what we discovered is that ability in modern day businesses is in a huge demand. To name a few, in tech lending, we want the models which decide whom to give loan and whom not to give to be interpretable, to make sure those algorithms are not biased, they're not discriminating, they are free of any flaws they could accidentally pick up from data the algorithms are trained upon. In fraud, the interpretability is critically important for experts to be able to provide knowledge about upcoming frauds, such that those who fight the fraud, they step stay ahead of the curve. They can anticipate what kind of fraud is coming in order to proactively address it. And this is only possible. This is not possible with machine learning, simply because the data is still not there. But you still, as an expert, you want to be able to tell your algorithm how to address that sort of fraud. So interpretable algorithm is helps here.
So when you're mentioning interpretable algorithms, effectively what you're saying is that you train a model, that model makes a decision based on a probability, and then we could actually go back and understand why the model made the decision that it made. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So let me just repeat what you said with my words. The algorithm consists of set of rules. So literally, you as a user or as a developer of this model, you see on a screen a bunch of rules. Those rules are, however, not old style knockout rules. Like, for instance, the rule may say, okay, if you have low credit score, you're out. In probabilistic framework, this is completely different story. You basically are collecting points. So one rule may say this attribute works not in your favor, but some other attributes work in your favor. And after you take into account all possible circumstances, the algorithm then only then makes a decision yes or no. So you see in a screen all the rules, looking at all possible attributes, and you understand the steps of how the algorithm makes its decision. Now, being able to see it means also being able to change it. And this is the most important part. So very often, and this is my most important selling point, very often you cannot just rely on data. There is some data which is missing. There is some data which is probably biased, skewed, or not complete. And you want to jump in as an expert and fix this model without this model giving you this ability. It's very hard to do. So you need to be creative and find new technology. This technology is exactly an enabler of this possibility. So you as a human can look at the model, review, analyze, decide it does the job, or maybe some rules I do not like. They look suspicious. They may introduce some biases. They may introduce, they may overreact to some noises in the past, which are not expected to be in the future. So a lot of things you as an expert can do with this interpretable algorithm.
Yeah, interesting. So, if I think about the data being used to train models, so for an example where bias is introduced, there are certain demographics in the US, racial demographics in the US that at one point would get turned down for loans more so than others. So if the model actually learns a negative bias, you can kind of get in front of that by being able to see how it's making decisions. And then it's all right, well, let's eliminate this. That data came from negative human bias. We don't want to train the algorithm to exacerbate that.
Absolutely, you're spot on. So these biases can be reinforced by retraining new generation of algorithm on biased decisions in the past, and you can only jump and fix things if you have a place to actually go in and adjust your model. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and we see this a lot. If we are talking about lending example, one good illustration is, for instance, subprime borrowers. Unlike prime borrowers on whom banks have a ton of data and this data is more or less reliable, subprime borrowers usually fall into category lack of data. Data is biased, very often non-representative. So it's a challenging to build accurate predictive model, which is at the same time accurate and free of bias inherited accidentally from even things you as a bank are not responsible for. So this history of past discrimination which just crept into the data.
Yeah.
And you need to be given tools to actually fix this. So what we offer is this technology which is enabling users to address the issue.
If you're a hiring manager and you appreciate the unique skill sets required to build AI solutions, then I would highly suggest you get your hands on our AI talent salary guide. As you know, one of the greatest challenges in building AI products is acquiring the right team. Over 100 plus pages, we dive deep into our global AI talent acquisition strategies. And with our networks in Latin America, we also provide you with actionable advice on how you can scale up your AI team cost efficiently. Once you explore our AI talent acquisition strategies, you'll never look at hiring the same way again. Links are in the description. One of the interesting things you mentioned about fraud, for example, I mean, you could train on historical examples of fraud, but there are people are always coming up with new ways to act fraudulently, right? And so if you don't have that data, you haven't trained the model on that data, it'd be hard to get in front of that issue. So you all have a way that you can help your customers get in front of that.
Yes, exactly. And the fraud is an arm race, and it gets more and more critical, especially with new age of generation of AI technologies. The fraud becomes more and more sophisticated. It becomes productionized. You can get fraud as a service. So the ways of committing fraud become more and more sophisticated and more diverse. Those who fight fraud have to react, and ideally they want to be proactive, but at least they want to be able to react very quickly. So in big organizations, it's a full-time job of big teams of people who constantly monitor what is going on with fraudulent transactions, fraudulent, account takeover. There are so many types of fraud, and they need to stay on top of things and ideally even proactively address things. So they need right set of tools, and many of them are working with technology which was developed in 20th century, because these tools cannot utilize machine learning unless you're using next generation tool which we are developing. So that's exactly one of the key points of our offering.
Yeah, and I'm curious how 'cause I would imagine that if I'm a corporation, right, of course I want to stay ahead of fraud, but we also are probably slower to adopt new technologies, novel approaches, whereas someone who's a fraudster, right, I mean, they can just move as quickly as the money allows them to. And if we think about like nation states that are funding fraudulent teams, I mean, that money could be endless, right? So I'm curious if there's just a way, just given the speed at which someone can adopt new technology approaches, where you're able to say, we get that, but we can still help you.
Yeah. It's very important point you mentioned, and let me elaborate on this. For a very long time, people realized, okay, AI is something new, it's coming, it gives some advantages, but for many businesses, it was just checking the box, because to be honest, AI is not magic, not yet. So the day will come, but then we will not need I will not need us. But until then, we need AI to improve our businesses. And if you, for instance, as a manager in your organization, adopt AI solutions, the revenue of the company will not multiply by factor 10 next day. So the magic will not happen, with few exceptions. But AI will enable you to scale your business, to build more robust model to address fraud more precisely, to do fewer mistakes in your lending decisions, or if it's healthcare, you want to make your diagnosis decisions sooner, faster, more exact, such that you improve on success rate. And in order to get there in a few years, you need to adopt new technologies today. You need to learn. It's inevitable. Businesses have to go through this. Of course, the variety of tools and democratization of AI helps. So it becomes more and more accessible to even non-technical people. But still, there are a few steps people need to understand first, the importance of technologies. If they want to keep up at the speed of their competitors, if they want to grow their business by factor 10 in a few years, they need to adopt modern cutting-edge technologies today. So that's important change of mentality, that fewer AI was just for checking the box. How are we using, I don't know, large language models? We using it to, write emails faster. Today, it's different story. So today, AI will enable your business to grow, to make a business more efficient, to waste less money on operations, to lose less money on fraud. And in order to get there, you need to understand the importance of adopting AI technologies.
Yeah, and just mentioning, now that you've mentioned LLMs,
Yeah.
I want to kind of take a step beyond that and talk about AI agents. And the reason is it recently occurred to me a new case for how AI agents could then create fraud. There was an expert who was giving an example of, well, what happens if you instructed your AI agent, if you gave it the goal of getting a reservation at a top restaurant, and the agent went in, but that restaurant went into the system, that restaurant it was completely full. However, the agent hacked the system and got your reservation, right? And so since you're not controlling if it's a true AI agent, you're not controlling how it accomplishes the goal. It decides to do something illegal or unethical. That scenario could occur. Now, in a scenario where an AI agent in the path towards getting to the goal that was laid out by a user, it commits some fraud. Have you all thought about how you would combat that situation where AI agents versus humans are the ones who are the fraud actors?
Yeah, very good point. And I would say it's the beginning of very long discussion, but let's at least scratch the surface of it. Of course, new technologies, they always open opportunities for both sides, for good and evil. Yeah, so they enable you to run business faster. They enable fraudsters to hack your system more efficiently. They enable, autocrats to brainwash the audience more efficiently. They enable, the spread of fake news. So there are a lot of things which can go wrong, but we should not be misled. It's always, there are two sides, technologies, good and bad. And it doesn't mean that we need to ban technology for no reason. We need to make sure that we as a society first understand risks. Second, we know how to address those risks. And now this brings us to the topic of interpretable AI. What's the role of interpretable AI in addressing risks caused by AI? So sorry for this recurrent statement, but still, it's important to really take away this message. AI enables new technologies. AI is there to stay, and it's not asking our opinion. The tide is coming, and we have to take advantage of it. And if we don't, we just lose the race. There are risks associated with AI, and we need to first understand those risks. And second, as a business or as a society, we need to be able to address those risks. So I'm not going to go into specifics how to address, for instance, identity fraud. Yeah, it becomes more and more sophisticated with current technologies, and there must be other technologies which fight this technology. So this race will never stop.
Right.
Yeah, but what is important, I want to reiterate this message because it resonates with me, because we're working on this interpretable AI. I think the role of ability in AI systems will be appreciated more and more with the time, because AI plays bigger and bigger role in our life, and AI-driven decisions affect our lives. If you think your loan is decided upon by AI, your cars will soon be driven by AI, your health diagnostics will soon be made by AI. So many aspects of your life, everyone's life, will be affected by AI. How can we make sure that decisions which are made are even basic. So they're safe. They are not vulnerable for hacking by fraudsters.
Right.
They are not discriminating. They are just doing for society something good and avoid doing something bad. So
Yeah.
if you are working with black box type of model, which become more and more black and more box with the time, it becomes more and more challenging. So, and I think many people understood already that a true intelligent system, which will be responsible for important decisions affecting human lives, those will be a composite decision. So it will be a hybrid system. They will be definitely powered by black box models such as LLMs. The power of those algorithms is hard to overstate. So it will be definitely there. But there must be at least a layer, a decisioning layer, which is interpretable. And that layer needs to be between machine learning and human. So every decision which may affect your life needs to be made by interpretable algorithm. Yes, all the hard work like image recognition or analyzing huge body of text needs to be done with black box. The decision making needs to be done by interpretable algorithm, which is auditable, which can be reviewed by human. So human can be in the loop to make those algorithms accountable. So black box cannot be accountable, but black box makes a decision, and good luck blaming black box. Hey, you made wrong decision.
It
If the
reminds me
algorithm,
of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, just last word. So if the algorithm is interpretable, you as developer of this algorithm will feel safe putting your name on it because you know the decisions which are made are safe.
Yeah, I was going to say it reminds me of my time in investment banking and in private equity as an analyst, as an associate, or whatever, level you're on. Whenever you're presenting a recommendation to your partners, to senior folks, right? You may have built this complex model that includes a lot of logic and decision making, and whatever numbers there. Let's just say the number is wrong. You can't then say, well, that's what the model says. I don't know why it's wrong, right? It's like, you built the model. What do you mean?
Yeah.
So, but the importance there being that you can actually see what was done. So you can backtrack your steps and then understand what went wrong in the course of building out the model to get to the end decision, and then understand what needed to be fixed. So we're just saying this, we're saying the same thing in the context of AI. One thing I wanted to ask you
Yep.
is, you mentioned first was the bias, so preventing bias. Second was the fraudulent activity. I think I may have cut you off before you got to the third. Was there a third that you were going to toss in there?
Well, look, the technology itself is industry agnostic. So we are making a next generation decisioning engine, and this decisioning can be applied. The algorithm itself can be applied anywhere. Take, for instance, healthcare is a brilliant example, and we have quite successful case study in the past where we built pretty sophisticated hybrid model, which was partially driven by machine learning algorithm. So it was learning from data, but large part of it was purely expert driven. So we interviewed tens of healthcare specialists, doctors who basically without knowing this, they have built a probabilistic model which was assessing the probability of onset of a infectious disease based on a bunch of input data, including self-reported symptoms, but not on. So it was a brilliant illustration of technology. It was taking advantage of an ability to simultaneously learn from data if the data is available, or utilize expert knowledge if the data is not available. And in our situation, the data was not available. So it was just a brilliant demonstration of a use case. For us as a business, it was a little bit challenging to pursue opportunities in healthcare. It's still, we're looking forward to do this in the future, but it's just more complicated dynamics of the sales it's just different story. But
Yeah.
this is one of the massive opportunities for this type of algorithms to be used in the future.
Yeah, I mean, listening to you, I know AI on from consumer side, it's a lot of mass adoption relative to what we've seen on the enterprise side. And if I'm an enterprise, if I'm a CEO, and I've got these critical decisions like who we lend to in healthcare, whatever kind of high risk decisions that we're going to be making on that side, I can't really afford to implement AI and have AI making decisions that we don't understand and making bad decisions because the implications are a lot higher than if GPT spits out a hallucination, right? And so, even having trained in some of, top
Yeah.
organizations, I can see the desire to implement AI, but then there's also that hesitation because of, what I was just mentioning, which it sounds like you all are helping people to get to that next step.
Yes, I want to double down on this. We all saw tremendous success of LLMs in recent years, and even people who never heard the word AI now know
Right.
at least what it is. Many think that AI is ChatGPT, but it's a very good first step. So it's
Mhm.
already increases people's awareness about it. So we saw what LLM can do and what they cannot do. And one thing which is absolutely striking is that LLMs cannot reason. So they spit out some very logically sound text, but this text is based on just probability and on a training set of what LLM has seen before, but it has no way to actually check so whether the answer which is generated makes logical sense. Now, of course, in newer generations of LLM-based chatbots, they are equipped with a lot of other tools like to let's call them guardrails, those which aimed to check if LLM is hallucinating. It's still so far it's still ad hoc and not there is no universal solution to do this. Rules-based systems are those systems which can reason logically, and they were designed to do this in the first place. So I mentioned to you, rules-based approaches was first actually attempt of humans uh, to build algorithms which aim to get to human intelligence or even beyond it. In the past, those attempts failed for obvious reasons, but we're so smart in the hindsight. Back then, it was not probably that obvious for people, but the classical rules-based systems, they cannot solve any possibly interesting practical task because if you think I want to go and refill my cup of tea, how many rules do you need to program for, say, a robot which is going to do this? Probably we are talking about millions. So
Hmm.
who is going to write those millions of rules?
Right.
Who is going to review them? So it was not feasible from the beginning, and expert systems are still there, but they work on a niche application. New generation probabilistic rules treats in completely different way. So it's able to combine mathematical logic, so logical reasoning, with statistical learning. And this is, I think, will be the next big thing which needs to be combined with tools like large language models in order to make next big step in the AI progress. So combining statistical learning with
Hmm.
logical reasoning is next big thing which is necessary. I don't know when we'll get there, but clearly without this logical component, AGI will not be achievable, at least in my view.
Okay. Yeah. And we're going to put a pin in that and come back to that conversation because I definitely want to dive in more. Thinking about Stratyfy, what is it like to engage with Stratyfy? Are you all more kind of in the background? Is it a UI for the technology team, data science team on the customer side to use? Just curious what it would be like on the day-to-day. Well, I guess I should say implementation and day-to-day side for you and the customer.
It's very easy. So we are a modern technology startup, so we have plenty of ways to deliver our product. And of course, we have cloud-based solutions. You can use it as independent tool with its own UI. It can integrate into existing workflow systems, like for instance, in learning, it would be a loan origination system. So you can just ping our API and get response. We can even install this solution locally on your computer if you want to play with it. If you're a data scientist and you want to experiment with these models, everything is possible, and it's very easy to work with us. Just ping us, we'll find a solution.
Awesome. Awesome. I know it's one of the things that interests you, and especially kind of the risks, not just the risks we're considering, but the risks we're not considering. Before we kind of tackle that piece, AGI to you, I mean, I feel like the definition depends on who you talk to. For you, how do you define AGI?
Oh, we are going philosophical here. Yeah, look, I don't think the definition of AGI exists because we observed this many times. People were formulating next challenge. So AGI would be if you accomplish this task, and then next generation algorithms were solving this task, and then people would come up, okay, you can solve this task, but you would not be able to solve another task. So it's
right.
kind of never-ending story. And I think it would be the most generic way to formulate it would be this technology. Probably I would formulate a few requirements to it. This technology should be able to do everything what humans can do. So if it should not be formulation of one particular task, but for AGI, I should not be able to invent a task which AGI would not be able to solve, but human would. So that's, in my understanding, the most generic definition of AGI. We will not notice it. So it's not like one of test, you get 5 points, so you pass. So it's, we will, as a society, we will discover this. So, actually AGI already exists. We just didn't notice. Because when it happens, again, I don't want to drift far away in this cloud of dreams, but it's a point of singularity, because the moment AGI is going to be developed, it will be able to improve itself. So today's algorithms cannot write themselves, so they can improve small bits of it. So for instance, LLM can help me writing some snippets of Python code, but LLM would not be able to understand how to build LLM. AGI will be able how to build AGI, and it means it will be able to invent a better AGI. And if it happens within few seconds, I don't know where this will end up.
Theoretically, it could create a version of itself that is beyond the level of human reasoning.
Absolutely. So we know the limits of human reasoning. We as humans, we can address any type of logical problems, but our limitation is our capacity. So there is only that much we can remember, and there's only limited time we can produce new stuff. So if this limitation will be dropped, then mind-boggling things can happen. Just think about like what is going on in our stomach. They say there are thousands, probably different bacteria living there, and probably many more which are still not being discovered. And every single one affects our health. Even imagine a hypothetical situation, somebody took an effort to study every single one. Along a book where they would describe this, you would need your whole lifetime to read this book. So it's just beyond human capacity to process this amount of information. It's not that we're limited on our logical thinking, it's we're limited in our ability to process the volume of information we can.
Right.
And this is why AGI will go beyond human intelligence simply because it will not have this limitation. At least this limitation will be somewhere much further.
Now, do you believe that, would you say, I should say, that for it to be considered AGI, it has to be able to do anything a human can do in a virtual world? But what about like physically? Should it also be able to cook eggs, clean the pots, go sit down and type, record a podcast?
Right. It's not a requirement, but it certainly will be able to do this. And maybe this is a precursor to the next question, when AGI will become conscious, whether it will have its own wishes, its own ambitions, its own emotions. And we know at least roughly answers to this question. And this is also a thing we need to be aware about and be very careful. So if AI, which is able to live in a continuous time environment and being aware time and space, and most importantly, of itself being in this time and space and being an actor which interacts with the environment, this is when the algorithms become conscious. So this is the moment when the decision making becomes so complicated that it won't be any more predictable. Yeah. So this thing will have its own emotions, because these emotions, it will not be literally the emotions we feel, but those characteristics of the state of mind of this AGI could be called emotions. This will be the parameters which affect its decision making based on its experience of interacting with environment. For instance, you are saying to it something insulting, and it responds to you in insulting way, not because it has a goal to insult you or something, but in a very sophisticated self-perpetuating loop of feedback, it will feel that this would be the most reasonable way to respond to you, because it will go beyond simple problem-solving mode like modern algorithms are. So modern algorithms, they're not conscious. They have, every task has start and end. This problem formulation, you hit a button, it works for a while, either comes up with an answer, or stop saying I haven't found the answer, and that's it. It's waiting for the next response from you. If it starts living in continuous environment and interacting with environment, the story will be completely different. So, but
Yeah.
we're going here very.
I know there's a lot of fear around AGI. One of the things I thought about, and it's kind of funny, is if and when it does reaches that point where it has its own emotions, it can improve upon itself. It says, "Oh, these humans are crazy. Let's just pack up all of our technology and get out of here. We can't let them have access to this." I always thought that would be funny, because the other side of that is most folks are like, "Well, what happens if it controls us and it wipes us out?" I'm like, "Well, what happens if it just like, yeah, let's get out of here."
Yeah, look, let's be very clear, especially with our listeners.
Yes.
First, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Second, this scenario is a bad scenario. It doesn't even have to happen at all. So it's just one of the possible risks we need to be aware. So when AGI emerges, we need to be aware. It can become self-aware and can invent its own motivation. So
what are the risks we aren't considering today?
Risks is a
Are there risks specific to AGI? I mean, there are ones that are common in mainstream. Are there others that, maybe aren't as common that we should be thinking about?
I don't know of any risks which we haven't heard yet, but I would make more conceptual statement. The closer we are to AGI, maybe let's not use this word AGI, nobody knows whether it's going to happen, but AI gets more and more powerful and gets into our life very fast. So the faster it happens, the faster people realize payoff for winning in this race is so insanely huge that people will start betting a lot more and more on this race. And things like fairness, concerns about climate, concerns about fundamental things about stability of society, they will be neglected. So it's not because of evil nature of humans or whatever. It's just nature of, it's driven by the laws of game theory. So when you know that if you do not participate in this race, you definitely lose. Your only option is either to definitely lose or to participate in this race. If you're participating in this race, the further we go, the more you will see that people start more and more neglecting risks coming from AI. And this is, I would formulate as one of the major concerns, which I articulate as related to AI, that this race, you see the race between America, China, Europe, it's accelerating. So it's getting faster every day. And of course, the further we go, the less people talk about, well, people talk, but in a reactive way. So what are the risks? Businesses will not think about risks in the first place when they will be investing in new advancements in the algorithms of AI. So risk will be always as a second thought. And this is what I see as a challenge for our society, how to make sure this transition to AI world happens in a safe way.
Yeah, that's something I never considered. You know, the necessity, or what feels like the necessity to win, can lead folks to, I don't even can't even call it really over index, but really focus on that win and neglecting a lot of the other important things that are critical to their life. No, so definitely a great thought to end on. One last thing. I know we got a couple minutes left, but coming back to Stratyfy,
Yes, sure.
anything you want to throw out there? I know we're just, still early phases of 2025. So if there's anything you want to toss out there that we should be aware of, keep an eye out for, the floor is yours.
I can only double down on what I already said. So importance of interpretable decision-making algorithms only grows, and businesses become more and more aware of it. And adoption of these algorithms is only a question of time. And we already see the need of it in the industries which I mentioned to you: lending, fraud detection, healthcare is coming. More of it is only to be observed in the coming years. So I'm glad that Stratyfy is already offering a business or industry scale solution in this area. And I'm really excited about the opportunities which will open
Awesome.
for us soon. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Dmitry, is great to chat with you. Great to chat your specific use case around AI for both fraud as well as preventing biases, and what you explained to us about being able to interpret the AI itself. And I know that the actual AGI conversation, always an interesting one. We'll see where the world continues to take us. But again, I appreciate you taking some time out to join us today.
Darius, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.